and welcome to A Good Walk Spoiled Adventures in Golf with your host, Scott Poniewaz, also known as Pony Golf. A Good Walk Spoiled is part of the Millions.co and Golfer Gang networks. Thank you for tuning in. Let's swing into this week's episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of A Good Walk Spoiled. I know it's been a couple weeks. It's been a busy couple weeks, actually, from a not so successful Montana State Am a couple weeks ago. Rough weekend. And then I've had a couple other, played in a Pro-Am on Monday, and also have gone through a little bit of career change in there as well. So a lot of moving pieces and parts. So there's a little week or two hiatus here in season 2 of A Good Walk Spoiled, but there have already been a couple great episodes. So if you are not already subscribed and are finding this as your first episode, then strongly suggest you go back and listen to some of the earlier episodes from not only this season, but last season. Some interesting stuff with, interviews with people like Jay Blasey and some amateur tour players and, Bryson from Parsons Golf, and last season some talks with mental coaches for golfers and fitness and all sorts of fun stuff. So definitely check those out, and I'm excited for today. I think the background might be giving it away a little bit. I mean, what else would we talk about this week except for the Open, the last major of the season? So if you're not already listening to me and subscribe, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to me on one of your favorite audio podcast platforms, don't forget to head over to my YouTube channel as well, so you can see my smiling face as well as this Royal Portrush background. But yeah, definitely recommend subscribing to me on all the channels so you don't miss an episode. And before we kick off today, I just want to thank everybody for listening. And I also want to just do a quick little shout out to a couple sponsors. So I'm going to kick one off with Galway Bay and thank them. I've been excited to be partnering with them a little bit more this season. More to come as the season progresses. And also a couple of our other sponsors here. So let's kick a quick beat, and we'll be back in a second to jump into the full episode talking about this week's Open and a little bit of a preview episode, which I haven't really done before, but good timing for it. So here we go.
Hey, it's our pleasure welcoming you to St. George with an early arrival. Your time is important too, and Delta's proud to be America's #1 on-time airline. Current time is approximately 11:35, and we prefer it's about 20 minutes early.
Packing for a tournament weekend with Pony Golf. I got my bag, basics, shoes, gloves, tees, golf balls, extra towel just in case I need it, and a couple pairs of pants since I don't wear shorts, and a couple shirts, of course, in there. Warmer layer for those cooler mornings, and a mid layer, some socks, plenty of socks, and a belt, of course. Then I bring a couple of hats. Never know which is going to fit my vibe for the day. And some cozy clothes. I need the rain gear, packing the Galway Bay. Their pants and their jackets, so great for movement. And of course, for rainy weather, you need the rain gloves just in case. And a couple snacks to toss into the bag. And that is a tournament weekend packing for Pony Golf. All right, and welcome back. Thanks for listening to those words from the sponsors. Helps to pay the bills a little bit, so appreciate that. And welcome back to A Good Walk Spoiled Adventures in Golf. For those of you that don't know me, I am Scott Poniewaz, and you can find me on social media channels like Instagram as at pony_golf, just like that little name says here, or you can follow me out of the description if you're listening on the audio side of things. So if you love the game of golf as much as I do, you're probably pretty excited to catch the last major of the season, which is the Open Championship, which is just about to tee off tomorrow morning at Royal Portrush. So today we're going to go a little bit deeper into what makes the Open at Portrush so special, who I might think could have a breakthrough, and why you're going to want to watch this weekend if you're not already planning to. I know I'm going to have that stream going when I'm awake. A little early start, though, for me here in Montana on MST, about 8 hours behind or so. And then one of the exciting sort of tie-ins that makes this episode a little unique is we're going to do a little quick spotlight on one of Montana's own golfers, Ryggs Johnston, who's an exciting young pro that just happens to have gotten his start in a little town called Libby, Montana, here in Big Sky Country. So let's kick things off and get started. All right, so let's set the stage a little bit about Royal Portrush and the Open that's about to start. Obviously, it's not just the oldest major in golf, but it's also one of the most storied weeks in golf, or any sport, really, period. Some might argue the Masters in Augusta has a little bit more on it, but I mean, it is one of the most historic championships in sports. And so there's something about links golf and the timeless traditions of the Open that just feels different. Every year, fate, weather, and nerves combine for just a sporting spectacle unlike anywhere else in the game. There are so many unpredictable things that are going to happen this weekend. Just when somebody thinks they're in the home stretch, it's not uncommon to see a major blow up. So this year's host, Royal Portrush, is potentially one of the most, or like the ultimate in links golf tests. It's tucked away on Northern Ireland's rugged coast, and the links here have a reputation for humbling even the best players in golf. And we saw that in 2019 when it last welcomed the Open, and the atmosphere, the crowds, the on-course drama, all of it just made for some unforgettable moments. And Shane Lowry was able to lift the claret jug that week and earned a roar and a crowd size that felt like the entire island was cheering him home. But Portrush is no repeat show, and that's for sure. The undulating fairways, the deep pot bunkers, and those ever-present coastal gusts ensure that every Open here is unpredictable. It's a blank canvas for golf's wildest stories. So what should fans expect from Royal Portrush this week? One of the main ones is the weather is always the wild card. A sunny morning can quickly transform into howling winds and sideways rains by lunchtime that just make those early players with an advantage, or vice versa. The other thing is that they definitely keep the rough in pretty gnarly shape. The greens are fast. The positions on that ever-sloping terrain can be both an advantage as well as a nightmare. So with some of those greens, it can be pretty wild. Other thing too, just between the terrain and the weather, it really turns into a test of creativity, patience, and nerves. And it's as much power as it is precision, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you can have that distance, but some of the undulations out there can really put you in some tough predicaments. Those rolling fairways, and especially depending on the weather, firm fairways versus some moisture can really change up the playing conditions significantly, even from the start of a round to the finish of a round. So it'll be really exciting to see how that weather factors in through the course of this weekend and really plays into it. Me personally, I have never had the opportunity to play true links golf over in Ireland. However, I have played some links golf within the US. I mean, Whistling Straits is no slouch when it comes to link style. Similarly, Chambers Bay. And with just some of those basic understandings of American links golf. Some of those deep pot bunkers, I'm just thinking, the 18th on at Chambers Bay, where there's a ladder to climb out. Portrush is no different. Some of those big pot bunkers mean you're going to see guys hitting shots sideways, backwards, truly penalizing bunkers that you don't necessarily see on PGA Tour events regularly. So it should be pretty exciting to see how this works. And, those fast greens add in a little bit of wind, and things can get pretty wild out there pretty quickly for players. And just when they think they're cruising along, their game is going to get a test that they did not expect. So stay tuned for some of that this weekend. It should be super exciting. So with that, we'll move into kind of the next segment here. And I'm going to cover a little bit on who to watch. All right, so who to watch, the favorites and the field. So let's break down some of the big names and the storylines to follow. I would be remiss if I didn't pull up Rory McIlroy at the top of the list. Not only is he sort of the Northern Ireland superstar, and for good reason, but he's also got a connection to Portrush. He famously set the course record here as a teenager, lighting up the golf world and in a sense foreshadowing his run to becoming one of the biggest names in the game. And what's really intriguing this year is Rory's recent form, because he comes into the Open off a second place finish at the Scottish Open, being just one shot off the lead. He also just finished closing out his career Grand Slam in Augusta. He did have a couple rocky weeks following Augusta and the Masters win that did close out that Grand Slam, but as we saw, he kind of worked through a few rough weeks in there, but he is coming in pretty strong with that second place finish at the Scottish Open. There's an argument to be made that finishing runner-up might be the perfect prep. Sometimes a win drains you emotionally, but coming up just short can give you a little bit extra hunger and makes you hungrier to get that win the following week, and also coming in a bit sharper without sort of the heavy emotions that come with winning a championship at the Scottish Open. So Rory showed last week that his game is definitely dialed in. His iron play was clinical. He put in a solid few days of putting, and maybe most importantly, he looked very comfortable and confident out there that he hadn't necessarily been showing those prior weeks. So, in his backyard, in a course that he's held the course record. I should have actually double checked if it still holds or if that has since been defeated or beaten, but he's in a great place mentally and physically that could be his secret sauce for conquering Portrush this year and potentially getting a second major of the season. So keep an eye out for Rory. Next ones, Jon Rahm, Scottie Scheffler, and Shane Lowry. Some of the classics, you can't overlook Jon Rahm. He's always steady, passionate, dangerous in these majors, always comes out strong. So definitely do not discount him. Scheffler remains statistically one of the most consistent golfers on the planet right now. Definitely always a favorite in any tournament that he's playing in these days. So Scottie Scheffler is definitely on the top of the list as a potential winner. And then there's Shane Lowry, the defending champion the last time the Open was here. I don't think you can measure how much confidence walking these fairways gives him after that iconic win. He also has been in the mix in the last few both PGA Tour events as well as the Scottish Open as well. So Shane Lowry, another good one to keep an eye out for this weekend. Next, you've got Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland, and Tommy Fleetwood. Matt Fitzpatrick's game just travels well in Europe. He's proven that time and time again. And then you've got Victor Hovland's ball striking that definitely deserves attention. He's also been, up in the top of the leaderboard a lot lately. So he's got some confidence and definitely some strength. Hopefully, he'll make that breakthrough here at the Open this week. And then last but not least in this little group, Tommy Fleetwood's roots in links golf definitely mean he's as equipped as anyone to handle Portrush's quirks. On top of that, Tommy Fleetwood has been battling, several weeks over now, runner-up finishes where he's been the bridesmaid, never the bride in a couple of these recent majors, including some of the recents like the PGA. He was up there with the Masters as well, and so I think Tommy Fleetwood is definitely looking for his breakthrough major performance this weekend. So hopefully we'll see a great weekend out of him. And then, of course, there's always the underdog stories. So don't sleep on the underdogs. And that's one thing that's always true at the Open. And this isn't a venue where a less heralded player can catch fire, come out of nowhere. And there's always names on the first and second page of the leaderboard by the weekend that most casual fans may not know, especially with some of the European Tour players that call this their backyard. So it's truly golf's anything can happen kind of tournament. And, I think that there's going to be some storylines that happen beyond the leaderboard as well. So, some of those players are, the weekly favorites. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's no secret that Scotty Scheffler is going to probably be in the hunt. John Rahm, especially in European and links. And of course, Rory being his backyard and coming in pretty hot after last week. Definitely eyes for this weekend to keep on those potential players and their performances. All right. So take a little shift, but some of those storylines beyond just those star players. So one of the things that always happens at the Open, and I expect no differently this year, the weather drama. So definitely expect at least one day where Mother Nature just wreaks havoc on these players and the course conditions. It'll create a dramatic swing on the leaderboard and also just put players through the ringer mentally. So definitely keep an eye on the forecasts for the weekend, and especially once you get into the weekend after the cut, and some of those top players, may or may not be in the same areas, but you might have a winner on Saturday morning on moving day just come out, and then the afternoon the top of the leaderboard gets hit with nasty weather. So keep an eye on that. The crowd energy. So Portrush has huge passionate crowds. 2019 was a showcase in this, and you just know how much that can elevate the golf and the course and the event as a whole. So another thing to keep an eye out for at Portrush is the strategy versus the power. So while links golf can definitely favor the long hitters, this isn't just a bomber's paradise. Sometimes taking less club and playing creative angles is going to win out over pure distance on these courses, especially with some of those pot bunkers and some of the different ways in which the runouts and other areas can put players into some precarious situations. So if you love golf's mental battles, the Open at Portrush is definitely going to be your jam this year. And I'm excited as any one of you, I'm sure, to see what kind of happens out here. So yeah, before we kind of turn the corner on a little special feature for this episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, I'm going to do another quick break and a quick word from our sponsors. Hey, and today, thanks to Galway Bay, I am reviewing their new Renville rain jacket, which is super high quality, super high performance. They've got this great low profile neck, seam sealed for waterproof and extra windproof. The other thing too is it's got this great performance stretch fabric. They've got even all these little nice features like the waist cinch, also this great wrist enclosure. Keep it tight around your golf hands. The other thing too is great zippers, waterproof pockets, including a nice little scorecard pocket here that's waterproof as well. Nice little added touch. The other thing too is it's a nice, light, soft, stretchy fabric, so easy to wear. I've been able to test it around Montana this spring. While the golf courses might not be open, I've had it out in a little bit of snow, sleet, rain, and been able to wear test it, and I can definitely attest the waterproofness of it. Also nice, sleek style, so with the golf swing, most importantly, it's not going to inhibit that swing. So have had a great chance to test it out. Highly recommend it. If you want to get your own rain gear, either this jacket or others from Galway Bay, be sure to use my link in my bio, or you can just use Pony Golf 15, that's PonyGolf 15, and save 15% on your purchases over at GalwayBayGolf.com. All right. So one of the unique things that I just saw earlier this week, which is why I really wanted to include this in the topics for today's episode, is a little Montana pride. So we're going to do a quick little spotlight on Ryggs Johnston. And so, as promised, we're going to talk a little Montana golf. And if you follow my socials, or even previous episodes, we've had the director of the MSGA on here and the events director, but I love highlighting some of this homegrown Montana talent now that I live out here and play in these tournaments. And Ryggs is as good a story as you'll find out of the Northwest in Montana right now. So he started his journey in little town of Libby, Montana. So really like small town golfer, big dreams. And he dominated high school golf, winning 4 straight individual state championships while he was at Libby High. And that consistent excellence is pretty rare, especially coming from a state that isn't always on the national golf radar. But, starting as a freshman and starting to win the state championships definitely started to get some eyes on him. He then was discovered and really made his way into one might say, one of the top golf schools in the country, depending on who you're talking to. The stellar college career that he was able to build at Arizona State. He helped lead the Sun Devils deep into NCAA championships and locked up All-American honors, which is pretty incredible as he comes out of, the collegiate golf's most competitive fields, and, also being, small town Montana, a town like Libby, Montana, I'm just double checking, population is 3,100. So just to, kind of put that perspective, pretty incredible for him. So since turning pro, he has started his journey on the professional scene and has started to play a lot of like DP Tour, some of the different events done in like South Africa, across Europe, and some of the opportunities that he's made a name for himself. He's got strengths in his ball striking. He's solid off the tee, not afraid to aim for the flag, get after it, strong, calm under pressure. He's basically pulled that all out of the Montana tough weather that he faces here in the mountains of Montana. And then he's also on an upward curve. So making cuts, notching top 25s, and he's got that work ethic to keep improving. He's even won his first pro event, which was a 2024 ISPS and Australian Open, which was huge to see him because that was just a few events into his professional career. So just really taking off right from the get-go. And he's definitely on an upward curve, making cuts and all that stuff. So for me, seeing a Montana kid in the field like the Open is a good reminder that the game can take you anywhere, even from a small town like Libby, Montana to Royal Portrush. So if you're watching this weekend, especially if you're from Montana or the Pacific Northwest, hopefully you're rooting for Ryggs, and hopefully we see him well into the weekend and the top of the leaderboard. So tell your friends, spread the word, and let's cheer for this Montana boy as he's representing Montana on the world stage. And, he's definitely earned every shot. So, sort of one of those outliers, but could be a great Cinderella story to see him. So, yeah. So, in kind of wrapping up what to watch for and things like that, how the tournament might unfold, a few storylines to sort of summarize. Will it be the local hero like Rory who's going to lift the flag and the claret jug? I don't know. Does a seasoned Open veteran, maybe like Shane Lowry, who's been there before as well, or Tommy Fleetwood, who's looking for his first big win, will that, turn into the story of the weekend? And then, of course, those weather curveballs that are going to be thrown from the northern shores of Ireland. What's Portrush going to bring to the table, and who's going to adapt the fastest on the course, or who's going to get their game just thrown into a whirlwind out there? So it'll be exciting to see what the weather brings. Will we see a breakout for an underdog or even a rookie making their first deep run? Maybe it's the Montana boy, Ryggs Johnston. So hopefully we see some of those sort of underdog stories come into the storylines this weekend. And of course, how will the Americans adapt to Links Golf's unique challenge? So my take is this may be the year where experience on links really pays off. Someone comfortable improvising and embracing the chaos is going to end up moving up the board when, the weather or course conditions shift. And when the wind picks up, look for some of those creative scramblers and their patience, as well as some of the interesting shots that they're able to take. So I'm super excited, and I hope you are as well. And thanks for joining in on today's episode. Before we go, I do want to say this. The Open is such a special event just because it connects the game's past and present, the deep history of golf rooted in Ireland, not just at the top, but all the way down to every player in the field, their family, and every fan watching at home. We're jealous of some of you that I've been seeing on Instagram that have made the jump over the pond to go watch in person as well. I hope you enjoy every moment of it, and I hope the weather cooperates and you brought your rain gear. If it does not, and it's, this course, it's, the Open just has so much depth to it that some of the other majors don't quite pick up on, even the Masters. It's those long walks, it's the wild weather, the quiet moments of genius in their shot making abilities that links golf demands, and of course the heartbreak as somebody inevitably might take a tumble down the leaderboard once some of the links and weather kicks in. So that's why they call golf a good walk spoiled. My podcast has some reasons behind it, and also why we keep coming back to the course round after round. It's that, birdie putt on 18 after a long day that still brings you back to the course round after round and year after year. So whether you're watching for Rory, rooting for an underdog, tracking the Montana magic of Ryggs Johnston, or just soaking in the drama, I hope you enjoy every shot this weekend. And if you want to chat, just hit me up on Instagram at @pony_golf. Follow along, subscribe on the podcast, the YouTube channel, and of course, follow along on the Instagram for highlights and probably a few heart palpitations as the tournament unfolds. So that's it for today's episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf. Thank you for listening. I'm Scott Poniewaz, and I am going to hopefully see you out on the links soon. Enjoy the weekend, and thanks for following along on the journey. concludes today's episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf, hosted by Scott Poniewaz. That's myself. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, rate it high, and follow us on Instagram at pony_golf to stay in the loop. We'll catch you next time.